None to declare. Councillor Rankin,
I have none.
Councillor Hearn,
No.
Councillor McCabe,
I have none.
Councillor Burke.
Yes. I do, and it's with regard to the infrastructure.
Take your time, Councillor Burke.
Thanks, because I'm trying to get logged in. Okay. Yeah, I've got that. Sorry for the delay. So I have an indirect pecuniary interest with regards to one of the items for infrastructure, and I'm just trying to pull up the number here. It has to do with Mammoth Homes. That will be
Musical chairs.
so it is
Which one is Manta?
Manta
Cork Street?
Market Street.
That
So
will be
is item number
2025-010 Cork Street urbanization.
so it is infrastructure item 2A, Cork Street urbanization. I have an indirect pecuniary interest with Mammoth, the Mammoth subdivision development, as my employer has done survey work on that development project. So I don't know if we can pull out the rest and discuss that one separately or how we want to deal with that.
Each one that's been pulled for separate discussion, so it will be pulled anyway.
All right.
Yeah, can we, I mean, there's 4 affected properties in the recommendation.
Oh, I see. You want to discuss.
Well, 3 plus the township. One of which Councillor Burke has a pecuniary interest or indirect.
I'm really not comfortable in giving that advice on pecuniary interest, whether we can discuss just one piece of that or not. I really would defer to the integrity commissioner. I know it's late to do that.
So, it doesn't really, I guess, if we could discuss whether we're going to approve the cost sharing approach, I guess, and then once we get into the details, maybe I can declare pecuniary interest at that time. Otherwise, I'll declare pecuniary interest for the entire report.
Okay. And then do you wish to declare with regard to the deputation as well, Councillor Burke?
No, I'm not going to declare for the deputation because no decisions are being made at that time.
Okay.
Well, she'll declare it when we get to close. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. We're scheduled to move into a closed session here now, so we have a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North go into a meeting at 4:35 p.m. that is closed to the public under subsection 239, number 2 of the Municipal Act 2001, specifically to deal with item C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and item F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor McCabe and Councillor Rankin, thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we're in closed.
Okay, so just let me pause the recording and
Okay, so we have a recommendation here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North rise from a closed meeting session at 5:54 PM, moved by Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor McCabe. All those in favor? That's carried. The recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the verbal report from municipal solicitor regarding infrastructure, and the council approve the confidential direction to staff, moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Hearn. All those in favor? That's carried. And then we have a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report C and ED 2025-18 sale of land, and the council approve the confidential direction to staff, moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And then the second one with regard to the property. So this is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report C and ED 2025-21, and that council approve the confidential direction to staff, moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Hearn. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And then deal with the minutes. We have a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North approve the closed meeting minutes of the April 22nd, 2025 council meeting, moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Burke. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we were intending to recess our meeting until 6 o'clock. It's now 5:56. And I know we have people here to present to us at 6 o'clock. Do we want to take a short break here?
I need a 5-minute break if that's okay.
Okay, well, why don't we say 10 minutes? We'll
Sure.
start a little bit late, unfortunately. But so we'll be back here at 10 after 6.
Perfect.
Pass a resolution to recess, so I'm not going to worry about a resolution to resume. We'll just say that the chair resumed the meeting at 6:09 PM. And we have, we're on to deputations is the next order of business, and we have 3 deputations plus 1, I guess I could say, to deal with. And so the first one listed here is Paulo Pambianchi, Arthur Green Developments, but I don't see him here. Is he joining us virtually?
I'm just checking. No, he's not there.
So I guess we might as well move on.
Oh, there he is right there.
Oh.
Paolo, I'm just promoting you to panelist. You'll have to accept the invitation. Okay, he's just rejoining there now.
Okay.
There he is.
Oh, there you are. You're still there. There you got sound too, Paulo.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, and we're ready for you to start. So if you're okay, I'll just turn the floor over to you, and you can start your deputation.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
So I am inquiring with council in relation to the sewer allocation for a multitude of projects, specifically in Arthur, that we submitted for going back to 2020, 2023, and we've never received an answer about. We would like to have an answer so we can make an educated decision about how we can proceed to complete some of the projects that we've proposed in regards to affordable housing and some of the commercial opportunities that we've proposed as part of those developments, which are in compliance with the town zoning bylaw. We need to know that we have, in a confirmed way, sewer allocation. The projects in question are not greenfield developments. They are infill developments. They meet the highest category of points in the point system for the sewer allocation. And again, we're looking to have a clarity that our requests going back, well, specifically, we have 164 and 168 George Street, which was navigating a site plan approval process, but which during said process, we received a letter saying that there's a moratorium on sewer allocation. We assumed that by the receipt of the site plan application process and with the heavy weighting of the project in relation to the fact that it's an infill development in the commercial central zone, developing affordable housing, commercial opportunities, that it did have the allocation that was required. Unfortunately, we found out that it did not. So we're just trying to get some clarity. I'm not sure who it is or who makes the decision, but in fairness, we have made these submissions 2023. I actually sent an email going back this evening, and one of them was sent date 2023-03-02. That was for 143 George Street in Arthur, or 101, which is the corner building where the Sussmans used to have their bridal women's in, which was most recently the Father's Hearts Wellness, that corner. And we've never received a single response to that. And we filled out all the requisite paperwork and submitted it on the requisite forms and to the people who are meant to receive the information. So that's one of them. 110 Frederick Street. 110 Frederick Street, we're actually going to be hopefully before you guys on the next council meeting with an application for rezoning for a daycare, which we're hoping to add to that property. And similarly, it will need a confirmation of availability of sewer allocation. That was again 2023-03-02. And then, of course, the project which I most recently discussed with you concerning the site plan approval at 164 and 168 George Street, joint site plan approval, which is the old Queen's Hotel and the adjacent building. There's going to be, there's a proposal before the municipality for the addition of 9 residential units on the Queen's building, and I think 7 residential units, if memory serves, on the 168 George building, which is the adjacent to the south. Again, no confirmation of sewer allocation. Yeah, that's the 164. That was pretty much it. Just trying to get an answer.
Okay. So, maybe I'll open it up for questions from council and we can go from there. Any questions from council on this project or on this request? So I'm not seeing too many volunteers, but I have a question, Paulo, and I'm just a little bit unclear as to what it is you're asking. So you are familiar with our sewage allocation policy. You are familiar with the moratorium that we had to put in place because of the sewage treatment plant limitations. So I'm a little bit unclear as to what it is you're asking for.
My understanding that there was going to be some sewage allocation available. And certainly this type of project, again, in terms of the categories or the point system that's allocated to it, is the highest threshold for the number of points in terms of infill, existing laterals, all the capacity, all of the pipe and infrastructure are already in place. So I was assuming that there was some sewer allocation coming online.
And our normal process, I believe, is we deal with that in April in terms of the applications for new sewage allocation. It's a small infill. We do keep some aside for that, but I think you're talking larger scale infill that you're proposing. Is that correct?
No, there are some smaller ones incorporated there, but I think what we're trying to confirm is, we applied for the sewer allocation 3 Aprils ago. And we assumed that it had been confirmed because we were promoted to move forward into the site plan approval process. We only found out, I mean, when the allocation, like, if we're making a decision to proceed with a project, obviously, we need to ensure that the allocation is there and not get 3/4 of the way through quite an expensive process in terms of site plan approval, et cetera. I mean, there's just still reasonably small additions, I think, in terms of overall unit count versus, other, greenfield type approaches. They're still quite small. There's no impact footprint wise. They're sort of adding to existing buildings or reallocating existing buildings, reusing the same space. But basically, how do we confirm that we actually have this allocation in place? In taking into context that we have applied with the requisite form in 2023. What is the method of actual galvanization and firm confirmation prior to proceeding?
And your specific applications, from 2023, I'm sorry, I can't remember that far back specifically. But if you haven't received an agreement to use those sewage allocations, then I guess at this stage you're not granted them. And I'm looking at staff to make sure that I have my facts straight.
Through you, Mayor Lennox. Yes, in 2023, sewage allocation was not awarded to the properties that Paulo was speaking to. In Arthur, it was awarded to VED at 35 units. And that was only one in Arthur that was awarded. As per the sewage allocation policy, we do a reserve calculation annually, and it's based on weather events and flows that are receiving to the treatment plant. And through the policy, we review applications and recommend awards up to 15% of the reserve capacity. Additionally, it's evaluated based on the development applications that come in. So it's based on their review process and what stage they're at, if they have an agreement in place. And there's other evaluations that we complete as well. The evaluation forms on the back of the sewage allocation policy, which is posted to the township website.
Good.
None of that information was ever shared with us, that's for sure. So we're just trying to get some clarity to it. I mean, if the application has been rejected, wouldn't it be fair just to at least acknowledge that there's a rejection, which we haven't received?
Yeah, and whatever may have happened in the past, there's nothing we can do about that. We can try to move forward, and if you need notification of that, just please ask, and we will try to share that information with you as it develops. As you're aware, sewage allocation is at a premium in Arthur and at a standstill right now due to the need for an upgrade to the sewage treatment plant. So as that condition changes, stay tuned.
So there was no new sewer allocation allocated this spring or very recently?
And I'm
Through you, Mayor Lennox. Arthur was still under the freeze for allocation. Only properties or developments within Mount Forest was considered.
And so you may have heard something about that in that we were looking at options for financing the sewage treatment plant upgrade, and there was some discussion about making allocations through that process, but none were formally allocated in 2025.
Okay, and what is the restriction or the criteria? You discussed some infill, there's some reserve that's held for infill. What is the limitation on that, and what is available in fact, even if it, being that small amount?
Yeah, it's largely intended for a lot here and a lot there, but maybe I'll ask Darren or Tammy if they can speak to what is available there.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lennox. I believe it's 10 sewage allocations for the policy um, for infill. Yeah, and those can be awarded whenever applicants are at the building permit stage.
And just to build on that, the policy does state any development with 8 units or larger required to have sewage allocation.
Does that help clarify, Paul?
Yes. And if we were to put forward a proposal that were for a group of units that were less than 8 units, it would be available in Arthur currently.
Per the policy, there are 10 made available for infill opportunities. But it'll be on a first come, first served basis. Those able to meet the application requirements and be ready for building permit.
Is there any way to know what additional proponents are applying for these same 10 sewage allocation availabilities?
Sorry, say that again?
These 10 sewage allocation or sewage allocations, are there other people applying for them currently in terms of an infill?
They're available for anyone to apply for.
Okay. So if we expeditiously make an application for a building permit, then there's a good likelihood that it would move forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the current status is. Maybe Darren can add.
The applications on George Street have not met the site plan approval requirements, so a building permit will not be issued at this time and therefore not receive sewage allocation per the policy.
Okay, no, we were understood or wanting to understand that we would have sewage allocation prior to completing that process, because with all due respect, not knowing what that process looks like in the future, i.e. when additional sewage capacity would come online, it makes it a pretty tough business decision to make when you would go through that entire process and potentially get approval and then get to the end of the process and be told that it could be years, I'm assuming, to do the sewage upgrade to the plant. What are the estimates there in terms of time?
Yeah, I understand that, but we're struggling to try to figure out how to get that upgrade financed. And until we get that figured out, we're in the situation we're in.
Okay. And what about with the commercial daycare, which you're going to see an application coming before you on your next council meeting, would it classify or be would these sewage allocations be available for it? And is there a separate criteria for commercial versus residential units?
And I would ask you to work with staff on that. I mean, council is not in the business of negotiating what's available. It goes by the policy that we've created. So please work with staff to evaluate that, and they can give you a better answer on a more timely basis than we can. It'll come to council in a report at the appropriate time, and then council will make a decision accordingly.
Okay. I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much. Like I said, just trying to get some information because we were operating in the dark here, and I didn't know how else or to whom to address the inquiries to, because I understand that the staff are obviously working for you guys, and I think it was sort of staff was saying gotta ask council and council saying gotta ask staff, so we're just trying to figure out who to ask, especially considering we did populate the documents, the requisite documents, and never received a response. So that was the concern that we had.
Okay. All right. So we'll look forward to seeing your application in the future then, Paul.
Thank you so much, everybody. Much appreciated. We look forward to moving forward and getting these projects up and running for the constituents of the town of Arthur.
Thanks very much.
Have a great day. Great evening.
Okay, next up we have Amber Stewart. Amber, welcome. can come to the podium and make sure that the microphone is got a green light.
There we go. That works.
Thank you. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to you and
Okay.
let you have your say, and then we'll probably have some questions and interaction from council.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll say formally, good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a delegation today. So I'm sure that you've seen the correspondence that we submitted on June 13th. So you know already that I represent John Welton and Sunvale Homes Custom Home Building Limited, who is a developer with a draft approved plan of subdivision in Mount Forest. And this delegation relates to a staff report, which is on the agenda that seeks council approval to impose a cost-sharing arrangement, if I can call it that, to finance the urbanization and reconstruction of Cork Street. So I'll start off by telling you exactly what is my request on behalf of my client. And my request is that this item be deferred at this time to allow for consultation to occur with my client and with other developers who I know you'll hear from today as well, who are asked to contribute to a portion of the share of these costs. I will start off by just highlighting a couple of dates in the timeline. My client's draft plan application went for a pre-consultation with staff in June of 2019. So that is 6 years ago that the township has been aware of this application coming down the pipeline. It was formally submitted in 2020. And of course, the submission included all of the required engineering studies, including a transportation impact study and a functional servicing report, which indicated how this development would be serviced, and what, if any, offsite improvements from a transportation perspective would be required in order to accommodate the development. I highlight those two issues because for more than 5 years, the township has had in its possession consulting reports that have been reviewed multiple times. In fact, my understanding is that there has been 6 engineering submissions that have been submitted in the past 5 years. And those reports have clearly stated that there are adequate services in place, adequate infrastructure on Cork Street, and that the development only needed to connect into those services, and that there were no additional offsite transportation improvements that were required. Now, there were comments about urbanization of Cork Street, but my client has always understood, and you'll hear from Mr. Burnside as well on behalf of MAMTA. Mr. Burnside also happens to be the consultant for my client as well. So if there's more technical questions, I'm sure he'll be able to answer them probably better than I can. But you will hear from him that what has always been discussed and what has been understood is that there would be contributions required for the construction of sidewalks and curbs. And that is what my client's understanding was since 2020, since 2019, in fact, up to and including 2023 when draft plan approval was issued, and in 23 and 24 when sewage allocation was provided for this development. So this is an approved development or a draft approved development with sewage allocation and zoning in place. And obviously, we were very concerned. My client was very surprised and concerned when just in April of this year, he received a copy of the BM Ross report, which identified the cost sharing improvements that he was being asked to contribute to in the amount of approximately $1 million. So this was a completely surprise cost, and it's something that in our respectful submission, all of the reports have demonstrated are absolutely not required to accommodate and service this development. I have underlined here as a heading, lack of notice. My client wasn't told that this cost sharing proposal or study was in the works before it being provided to him in April of this year. My understanding is that neither he nor his consultants were asked to participate in the preparation or provide feedback in the preparation of that study. And in fact, notice of this council meeting, the fact that this cost sharing proposal was being considered was not given to my client. We only found out about this because he has a relationship with other developers, and I believe there was a comment from staff, but not formal notice, but a comment from staff that this Cork Street cost sharing proposal would be considered at a council meeting today. So if we hadn't heard about that indirectly, we wouldn't even have known to be here to make a delegation. And this is very concerning. With respect to some of the problems that are identified in the report, again, I will preemptively echo and adopt the submissions that are made to you by Mr. Burnside. But in terms of our preliminary review, really, because the report has only been in our hands since Friday, I will say that there are several concerns. And the first is, again, I've alluded to it already, the notion of what is urbanization and what was the understanding. I know that there are previous developers who have been asked to contribute, but they have been asked to contribute to urbanization, which includes construction of sidewalks and curbs, and I believe I saw gutters. Minor costs, which is what we expected as well. There is a comment in the report about road widening and construction of Cork Street to urban standards. And I think that the question really that we have is, why is a road widening required when it has not been something that's been indicated in any of the consulting reports to support the development? Certainly not identified in the transportation impact study. And what urban standards are not being met by Cork Street already? It's our understanding and our consultants' opinion that Cork Street is already urbanized. There are requirements to construct new sewers. And again, as I noted, the sewers are not necessary to accommodate the development of some Sunvale homes. And then we've also noted that there were different approaches taken in the report with respect to cost allocation. And it seemed like the first approach, which was recommended, was a cost allocation on a per frontage basis. But that changed to require cost allocation on a per share or per unit basis, which has significantly increased the amount which Sunvale Homes is being asked to contribute, and significantly decreased the amount that the township would contribute to these improvements as well. The last thing that I've got written down here as a heading is that this is just simply not a cost that is attributable to this development. And of course, that provides a concern from a legal perspective about the township's ability to impose a requirement to share in costs that are not reasonable, not required to accommodate this subdivision. And if those costs are required as a matter of development, then they should have been included in a development charges bylaw. If they benefit existing development, which is what, in my respectful submission, what we see, what we understand from the consulting reports, then it's simply not fair, especially on a surprise basis, to ask Sunvale Homes to accept a contribution of such a significant amount to those improvements. So I know that my client, Mr. Welton, I know that he sent an email this morning to council. And I wrote down the words that he called himself a reasonable and community-minded land developer. And I can attest to that. I've worked with Mr. Welton and Sunvale Homes for years, and he is a reasonable and community-minded land developer. And I think that he would gladly participate in discussions with staff and with consultants to see if an appropriate and a reasonable cost-sharing arrangement can be put in place. If it can't, unfortunately, what we see, if council endorses that cost sharing proposal tonight and imposes it as a requirement, Sunvale Homes at this point doesn't have final approval. So we see the only option to resolve this matter is to file an appeal to the tribunal. And I don't think anybody wants that. We don't want it, and I'm sure the township doesn't want it as well. So that's why we're asking that this matter be deferred at this time to give us time to resolve this, and we take it from there. So I think, subject to any questions you have, those are all of my comments.
Questions for? Any? I would comment, though, that the tone of the submission come in for the deputation was not what I would expect from an organization that expects to cooperate. Okay,
well, the tone of the written deputation or the oral deputation?
The written.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I hope that I've addressed that in the oral deputation, because I can assure you that the tone is one which is looking to collaborate and cooperate if it can be done. Thank you.
Next one's Travis. Welcome, Travis.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. As Amber indicated, my name is Travis Burnside. I've been in front of you guys quite a few times with various developments, so I'm assuming you do know me, but I'm from Cobite Engineering in Hanover. I'm here on behalf of Mampta Homes. With me is Harjinder, the owner, and Dave Ray, who is working with him on this project with regards to the Cork Street project. As Amber noted, I am the engineer for Sunvale Homes, but I am here speaking on behalf of Mampta Homes tonight. As you guys are well aware, we're in the midst of a housing shortage in our area, which has led to an increase in prices in the resale market. The costs of new homes are largely driven by material and labor costs, land costs, and permit fees. In Wellington North, as you are aware, development charges for a single family or semi-detached dwelling are close to $19,500, and for a townhouse are close to $15,350. These are costs which are passed on to the buyer. These fees do not include any of the building permit fees or servicing costs. Development charges are an option available to municipalities to cover infrastructure upgrades that are needed due to developments. As noted in the report, the need to upgrade Cork Street is being driven by multiple developments, which therefore means this work should be funded through development charges. Mamta Homes, based on their current plan, will pay $767,000 in development charges, and the Sunvale site will pay $2.54 million. That's $3.25 million to the development charges reserves that could be used on this project based on your current bylaw. Currently, these properties are undeveloped and paying tax as vacant land. Once developed, the township will receive significant tax revenue from the houses and dwellings in both developments. In the case of Mamta's development, since it's proposed as a condominium, the township will not be responsible for any costs with regards to servicing the infrastructure or roadways within the development. You will only be receiving the tax revenue. The cost sharing prepared by BM Ross in favor of the township was completed without input from the developers in question. The initial costing was presented to the developers on April 17th, which was solely split between the two developments. After pushback from both developers, the cost sharing was revised in the council package that you guys received, and we were presented at 4 p.m. on Friday. We believe there's no legal basis to request this additional funding on top of the development charges, and that's why the cost sharing proposal was so easily changed. We've reviewed the estimates and believe there are a number of charges which are being billed to the developers to increase the overall estimates, which will thereby reduce costs when the project proceeds to the municipality, since the fees are proposed to be delivered or proposed to be paid upfront by these developers prior to being able to service any lands. The previously collected fees from other developments on the area were considerably less. One paid $16,000 and the other paid $30,000. Now Mamta Homes is being asked to pay $271,000. We question why these other developments were only required to pay considerably less when neither of them are that old. The development is within the town boundary, and Mamta Homes was not expecting to have to pay to upgrade the roads when they purchased the property. Our analysis, the impact of the future pool has not been adequately taken into account when dividing these costs, nor has the existing usage the community has gotten out of Cork Street through its useful life to date. The traffic counts provided in your council report were completed on a Tuesday in April, which underestimates the existing uses on Cork Street to access the recreation complex, as the hockey season has generally ended and it's prior to baseball season starting. So we feel that it's underestimated the traffic that uses the street. We would ask that the township not overburden developers in the current market in an effort to help spur housing starts in the community, as there's a shown need. Many other municipalities in this market are trying to reduce costs to help housing developments get started, and Wellington North is proposing to add more costs on top of the development charges that are already being charged. Our analysis of Bill 17 is that the federal and provincial government are trying to restrict municipalities from overburdening the developers with charges to cover infrastructure deficiencies, which we do appreciate exist in all communities. However, we don't feel development should be used as a bank to cover these costs. We would ask that council defer the report as written and direct staff to consider the current difficult market conditions for developers and home builders and the will of the current provincial and federal government to lower the cost burden on developers to keep the housing market moving. We would propose that staff reconsider the cost sharing and set up a meeting with the developer to discuss this further and work towards an amicable solution. Thank you for your time.
Questions from council, from Travis? Don't run away yet, Travis. And I should have asked Amber this question too. I mean, clearly both developments are expressing that they feel that this contribution is excessive. So what would be appropriate?
I don't have that number on the top of my head, as the cost sharing did change Friday at 4 from what we were originally presented. I think there is a solution that can come to. I don't have a number on the top of my head. I think it's something that requires further discussion amongst all parties involved.
So I guess the other piece of the puzzle here is that the longer this delays, the more this holds up these projects as well. And so I'm struggling with how to balance all of that with this.
Yes, I would agree. I think the sooner a meeting could be set up would be great. It is unfortunate that prior to this cost sharing being presented, there was no discussions with either developer about what was going to be included in each person's. I know personally, working for both, I expected the sharing to be in the neighborhood of what the previous two developments that were charged. So to me, it was a shock when the $1 million price tag came in for Sunvale, and it was over $300,000 from Ampta Homes on that initial report we were given.
Yeah, I think the scale of those was a little different though too, from the previous ones.
The one, yes. The other one did take up a considerable amount of frontage on Cork Street.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thanks, Travis. And I guess, Amber, do you wish to respond to the question that I should have asked?
Thank you. Bless you. Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I will. And obviously I don't have a number off the top of my head. I mean, we'd be certainly looking to Travis as well for input and consultation to help formulate that number. I can assure you that my client understands that there is a cost sharing obligation here. It's just a question of how much. So obviously that's not a direct answer to the question with specifics. However, the comment that I did want to make is I wholeheartedly believe that, and I understand your struggle that you've alluded to in terms of bringing these units into the market. I wholeheartedly believe that a mediated agreed solution is something that will be the most efficient path to bringing these units to the market. So I think it's worth a deferral of whatever it is, if it's a month or two, to see if it can be resolved. I think it's well worth that time. Thank you.
I appreciate that answer because that's significantly different than the tone expressed in that letter that I referred to earlier.
I understand.
Any other questions, council? Okay. So we had Mr. McFarland registered to speak. We don't have Mr. McFarland.
Yes, he's in the meeting.
He is? Okay.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of
Oh.
council.
Sorry, I didn't see you there. My apologies.
That's
Welcome,
okay.
Mr. McFarland. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, members of council. As said, my name is Rob McFarland. I'm a senior associate planner with Zelinka Priamo out of the city of Toronto. We represent the owner, Choice Properties REIT Ontario Properties Limited, for their site at 504 Main Street North in the town of Wellington North. There's an active site plan approval application for infill development of a portion of their site for a new commercial building there. I apologize for the late nature of our deputation request. We only became aware of staff report 2025-011 on Thursday afternoon. Seems like a common theme this evening that our client was not provided prior notice to the recommendations of that staff report and the findings of the BM Ross report, which impose a suggested $307,000 cost to our client's redevelopment of that commercial property, again, with no prior warning to our client. So I apologize for the late nature of our deputation, but I just wanted to speak briefly about that surprise staff report. That staff report has 2025-011 has obvious implications for the development of our client's property. That property received zoning and official plan approval back in 2024. We were here with council at that time to discuss the development. We've since submitted a site plan approval application to facilitate the development of that site. We have been in back and forth conversation with the municipality over our application. I understood that the city or the municipality was looking into comments for the urbanization of Mount Forest. We did follow up on numerous occasions for status updates to that undertaking. We only became aware on Thursday of this past week of this staff report and its associated recommendations. In my experience, it's highly unusual to see that staff recommendation without prior warning to our client. And so I just wanted to speak briefly to a few things. And in summary, our request to you this evening is quite simple and the same as others that you've heard this evening, which is just a simple deferral to allow us time to consult with municipal staff over those recommendations and come to a solution that works for both parties. In coming to your conclusion, I'd hope you consider a few points that I'll make here. The concept plan that was appended to the staff report 2025-011 is unfortunately out of date. As noted, we submitted OPA and ZBA applications back in 2024. A subsequent application for site plan approval did come to the town for review. That included revised concept plans for consideration, which we felt addressed staff comments related to site access and pedestrian access specifically. Those plans are appended to our submission to you this evening and depict a pedestrian connection directly through the site from Main Street to the front of the existing No Frills grocery store, which provide pedestrian connection as well to the new commercial building that's proposed as part of the site plan application. In our submission, the staff recommendation for the urbanization of Mount Forest, which we understand is based primarily on a pedestrian connection desire to Mount Forest, is not grounded in an identified need. And our client's plans, as we submitted them to the municipality, facilitate this connection adequately in our view. Specifically, Mount Forest Drive is a street that dead ends beyond our client's property. There's no identified extension or planned extension to that road that would facilitate this urbanization as part of our client's development. Rather, that road connects to agricultural lands beyond our client's property. So really, this urbanization is simply to facilitate development of our client's property, and the benefit of that urbanization is already accomplished by the proposed pedestrian connection that our client's development has contemplated. Our client's property has frontage on 3 public streets. The urbanization of Mount Forest is the furthest street from the proposed development, and there are sidewalks existing on Main Street. There's no policy in the official plan that would warrant this staff report or recommendation or necessitate our client be obligated to provide the $307,000 upgrade to Mount Forest. The staff report makes reference to policy, but doesn't cite those specific policies. And the reference in the staff report notes that those policies relate to lot creation, so a plan of subdivision or a consent application. Our client has submitted neither and is in for review for a site plan approval application at this time. Based on our review of the official plan, there is no basis for that request, and our client does look to work with staff to facilitate what that upgrade would bring to the community. The municipality has mechanisms to obtain funding for capital works projects that it deems necessary to facilitate development. Specifically, Development Charges Bylaw 059-18 applies to our client's property. It not only applies to our client's property, but it also facilitates that roads and other elements, including bridges, culverts, sidewalks, and streetlights, are all 100% eligible services for collection as part of development charges. In our view, the municipality has opportunity to collect fees from developments such as our clients to facilitate upgrades such as proposed here without the need to enter into this cost-sharing agreement, which again was not previously advised to our client before Thursday of last week. Ultimately, our client is committed to improving this site, to bringing in investment into the community through redevelopment of that property and improving the surrounding area and including additional pedestrian connections to the broader street network. We do simply just ask for a deferral of this recommendation to allow our team and our client time to work with your staff to facilitate what would be reasonable for a development of this nature. With that, I'll conclude my remarks and again, thank you all for your time this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Any questions from council for Robert? Okay. Thank you, Robert, for your submission, and I'm sure council will consider the request as we move into our meeting. We will be dealing with this item if you wish to stay and continue relatively early on our agenda, but we do have some other stuff to deal with first. And to the previous deputations, the same message that we will be dealing with it relatively early, but not right away. All right, so that brings us to guess we move to Canada next, eh? Okay, so if we're getting back to we've had a bit of a disjointed meeting. We've got a lot of stuff on the go today, so we're juggling some stuff around. So we're going to get back to where we normally start our meetings with O Canada. So if you're able to rise and not particularly good singers, so if somebody is, please feel free. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think maybe we can get started because the crowd is full in here and the lobby is full. We've got a number of awards and so on to do this evening. And so I think we told everybody we'd start at 7. So we may have to wait, but we maybe try to get started. So do we have the group from Wellington Heights Special Olympics bocce team? We're figuring it out. Okay. Want me to announce it? Do you want me to announce you? Okay. Okay. So we have a Special Olympics team. I know. We have a Special Olympics team to honor tonight. We have Ontario Volunteer Awards presentation, and we have a Senior of the Year presentation to make as well. We're going to start with the Ontario Volunteer Awards presentation, and for reasons that may become obvious later, I've asked Councillor Burke to present those on my behalf. So, Councillor Burke, thank you for pinch hitting.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's always nice to have standing room only, especially when it's a happy occasion in the council chambers. So I'm honored this evening on behalf of council and Mayor Lennox to present the Volunteer Service Awards. So I'm just going to start. Bev Fettis has been a volunteer at the Mount Forest Museum and Archives for more than 20 years, assisting with various tasks that contribute to the preservation of Mount Forest history. Bev Fettis, if I could ask you to come forward. They want you to both smile picture together. We'll get a group shot after. We'll do everything. Okay,
I'll sit down and come. Yeah, maybe come to the front now.
if you just come to the front, the list is short, Bev. So our next recipient is Nick Hansen, has been a member of the Arthur Optimist Club for more than a decade, serving the club in various roles and playing an integral part in several community betterment projects. Nick Hansen, if you would come forward, please. I'll just have you go stand beside Bev. Thank you. Next, we have Jessica McFarland. I have the pleasure to work with her on several of committees that I sit on. Jessica is a member of several committees in Mount Forest, including the Mount Forest BIA and the Mount Forest Aquatic Ad Hoc Advisory Committee. And Jessica does a great job for both committees, and especially the social media for the aquatics, because some of us just don't know how to do that. We're not technically savvy. Next, we have Chris McIntosh, has been a key member of the Arthur Business Improvement Area, Arthur Agricultural Society, and the leadership of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church for more than 20 years. Chris McIntosh, if you would please come forward. I too have had the opportunity to work with this next individual. He's not being awarded for his role on that committee, but Al Rawlings is a longtime member of the Arthur Lions Club and has held various roles within the club. He has also contributed to countless community betterment projects in Arthur for over the past 20 plus years. Al Rawlings. Did we get that picture? Sorry about that. Thank you. I have to take a verse out of the commencement on Friday night. One of the teachers was announcing all of the recipients of awards and made them stop until all the pictures were taken. So we'll try to keep that pace. Our next recipient is Sharon Wanger, has contributed countless hours to organizations and delivery of the Mount Forest Fireworks Festival, as well as the Mount Forest and District Chamber of Commerce. And I can say I know how much work she puts into the Fireworks Festival, leading many of the committee meetings, and just making sure that we have a great festival. Thank you. Michaela Humphrey and Kelsey Lennox are two of the three youth recipients. They have both volunteered with the Arthur Agricultural Society in various roles, lending a helping hand wherever it is needed. Most recently, the two led the youth and social media initiatives. If I could have Michaela Humphreys come forward. And then I'd ask Kelsey Lennox to come forward. Our next recipient is Flynn Wetlaufer, is the third youth recipient and has spent the past few years volunteering with the Mount Forest Fireworks Festival. Flynn is always willing to provide a helping hand wherever it is needed at the festival, and I will attest to that. Come on forward, Flynn. So that concludes the Volunteer Service Awards. I think Mandy wants to get a couple of pictures for our social media website.
We all like that. I have to say that. Tom, I need yeah. Mary Lennox, are you gonna get one with your daughter? Thank you very much.
I don't know whether she wants one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody maybe go to the kitchen and then you don't have to run to, we'll move some other people in. That's a good idea. Did you want to get a picture with you?
Okay, so I should have mentioned this earlier, but we were intending to give these awards away at our volunteer event that unfortunately had to be canceled due to a power outage, but it's great to see so many people out participating tonight and glad you all could make it. So I have a presentation to do here. I guess I'll. I'm going to present the green. Right. I get to present the Senior of the Year award tonight, and tonight I get to honor Brenda Harris. Come on in, Brenda. and your supporters. So it's my honor tonight to get to honor Brenda Harris. She's the manager of the Mount Forest Thrift Shop, a position she's held for several years. The thrift shop, for those of you who don't know, is staffed and operated solely by volunteers, including Brenda, and sells goods, used clothing, household items, and funds raised from the sale of these goods is donated to cancer patient services and the Louise Marshall Hospital Foundation, two very important causes in our community. Since opening in 2009, more than $1.5 million has been donated by the thrift shop to these two organizations. And this is just an opportunity, Brenda, to a small token of our thanks for all your efforts and congratulations. So I have a couple of certificates here, one from the province for Senior of the Year and also one from Matthew Ray, our local MPP. So
that's great. Thank you very much. No, I appreciate it very much. It's a great place to volunteer. The cause is near and dear to most of our hearts. And we have about 105 volunteers at the store, so it keeps us busy, keeping things organized. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So we have another group to honor this evening as well.
Stay where you want to go. I didn't know it. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, there. Thank you very much. Oh, thanks.
That is the Wellington Heights Secondary School Special Bocce Team. So we could have the bocce team members and their families come in, please. So it's an ongoing part of our sports recognition program and generally trying to honor members of our community. It's our pleasure tonight on behalf of myself and council and staff to honor you as the bocce team members, Special Olympics bocce team members. We have a certificate for each of you. And so we'd like to come up and present you the certificate, and then we could have a group photo as well. So first on my list is Austin Lacombe. Speak louder. Brittany Heffernan. Next, we have Christine Chambers. Jaden Needham. Macy McDermott. Nicholas Duxbury. Last but not least, Wyatt Smaglin. I get that right? We got it. Congratulations and thank you for coming and joining us tonight.
Yeah. Well.
Andy, did they win first? They won first, right? Yeah.
They got the goal?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Okay. Back to our agenda items here. We've got next up the adoption of the minutes of the council and public meeting from June 2nd. Excuse me. I have a recommendation that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on June 2nd, 2025 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Hearn. Any questions or comments, errors or omissions from those minutes? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Don't believe we have any business arising from previous meetings. We have identification of items requiring separate discussion from the items for consideration. We have 1A, 2A, sorry, 1C. Very little dyslexic tonight, I guess. 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, 3A, 5B, 6A, 7A, and 9A. And to deal with all the others, I have a recommendation here that all items listed under items for consideration on the June 23rd, 2025 council agenda, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved and the recommendations therein be adopted. Moved by Councilor Burke, seconded by Councilor McCabe. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're on to then the items for consideration. We'll start with 1C. This is a Safe Communities Wellington County Leadership Table meeting. The recommendation out of that meeting is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the minutes of the Safe Communities Wellington County Leadership Table meeting held on May 2nd, 2025. We'll get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councilor McCabe and Councilor Rankin. Thank you. Questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 2A. This is the Cork Street urbanization. There's a lengthy recommendation here, and we've had a significant discussion about this topic already. Oh, yes.
I'm going to clarification interest on this.
Okay. Okay, so I will read the whole recommendation, bore you with that. Recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report INF 2025-10 Cork Street urbanization, and that Council approves the cost sharing approach for the development requirement of Cork Street urbanization between Princess Street and Martin Street, with the opinion of probable cost to be calculated using residential units and funding to be split between Township of Wellington North, Aiken, Sunvale Subdivision Development, and Mamta Subdivision Development as follows. Township of Wellington North, $966,250. Aiken Custom Framing, $36,750. Sunvale Subdivision Development, $671,250. Mamta Subdivision Development, $261,750. And further, the council directs staff to include Cork Street urbanization requirements for Sunvale Subdivision Development and Mamta Subdivision Developments as a part of their development agreement, and funds to be received prior to the start of interior servicing to the individual developments in order to implement the conditions of approval of those subdivision developments. And further, the council directs staff to include future sidewalk contribution from Aiken Custom Homes as a part of the development agreement and funds to be received prior to the start of servicing to the individual development. And further, the council approve a budget of $75,000 for the Cork Street reconstruction engineering design as part of the 2026 capital budget. Could I get a mover and a second with that, please? Councillor McCabe, Councillor Rankin, and we'll open that up for discussion. Councillor McCabe?
Excuse me, through you, Mayor. Just hearing from the members here today before our meeting, is there room or wiggle room for staff and their staff to get together to go over this? Because it seems like just hearing and just getting some of the late emails and everything. Has enough time been given for negotiations for this?
For you, Mayor Lennox. So these negotiations have been ongoing, and this report is really meant to be a response to several of the developers who've been asking us very pointed questions about what the urbanization project contributions would include. We recognize that it seems the definition of urbanization of Cork Street has been somewhat contentious. This represents staff's understanding. However, if this is not council's understanding, or if you feel that there's further discussion required, we're offering this as a starting point. This is what staff have done. We've done several iterations of review of this with our engineers, looking at the costs. There's a significant cost to the township already that we agree is our responsibility. However, how we move forward, especially considering there's multiple parties involved, it's very difficult to provide responses when there's multiple negotiations going on. So if there's an opportunity to bring all the parties involved at one time, I think staff would be open to that. But until then, we just don't have clarity to be able to respond back to the developers when they're looking for that information. So this was our response in an attempt to be as transparent and open as possible with all the parties involved.
So these costs, are they still negotiable? Because I understand if we all said, yep, we're good with this, then that's the final.
Maybe I can jump in a little bit here. I think this is staff's best cost estimate at this point for the total project. So if one or more of the developers think that they should not pay for those costs, then the choices are either Wellington North through tax base pays for more, or we change the scope of the project to have a different look and feel for that section of street in that area. That's all right.
Through you, Mayor Lennox, I have a different point to ask about altogether on this. I can see having the sidewalk on the east side because it's already there from Queen to Princess. And so the residents from NAMTA or the children will be able to walk right up the east side in order to access the school. The children from the Sunvale, there is no sidewalk, or there will be no sidewalk on their side of the street, and they're going to have to either cross the street to get on the sidewalk or will walk without a sidewalk up the street. And what I'm concerned about is the traffic. And in the traffic studies, there was nothing to say about how many children would be utilizing this sidewalk. Is there any number that we know of, or guess a number of children that would be in both of these subdivisions?
But he can answer that exactly because it depends who buys the home, right?
Right. Okay. But my further questioning is that I've been having complaints about the speeding on Cork Street now. And from what I understand, the residents have been told that they won't be doing anything permanent until the subdivisions are complete and the roadways are complete, which is understandable. So I'm just wondering, is there going to be some kind of permanent deterrent to slow vehicles down on Cork Street, either speed bumps, or sometimes you see an island in the middle, rather than just having a sign on a lawn, which doesn't seem to be very effective?
Through you, Chair. So staff are working to put together an urban traffic impact study that's for township wide. It will review recommendations for traffic calming measures to be implemented. We're also going to be coming back with recommendations for a pilot program to be able to collect data for before and after the calming implementations put into practice. And then we'll be able to provide additional recommendations for additional areas within the urban centers and rural areas.
Will the residents still have to fill out the complaint forms for speeding, or is this going to be automatic and you'll have a look at it without the complaints?
So the only way that staff will be able to receive that information or complaints from the residents would be to fill out the traffic pedestrian request form.
I would encourage you too, as the chair of the county's police services board, to please have people contact police too, to register their concerns about speeding. Because the police actions are data driven. So if people don't complain, they don't necessarily recognize there may be a problem. Any other questions or comments from council? Councilor Hearn.
More of a comment than a question. I'm hoping that we can come to some sort of equitable value. I think there definitely is benefit to the property value of these homes to have sidewalks. When you do a residential appraisal, there's a standard tick box, I guess, on the form and an upward adjustment to property value when sidewalks are in place. And if we reconfigure that and remove that, then there's a downward adjustment. So there is a direct financial benefit to these developments by having sidewalks in place in front of them. That's just a comment.
Any other questions or comments?
Through you, Mayor Lennox. I was just wondering about the considerations for Sunvale that have not been met yet. There seem to be quite a few of them. I'm just wondering, are they in the process of being completed?
Through you, Chair. So we are currently working through the detailed engineering design, and then the next step would be to enter into a subdivision agreement with the developer for Sunville. And within the development agreement, that's where all the conditions would be outlined for township requirement and some county information as well.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead.
My last one, I promise. Their trees are going to be removed on Martin Street. Are they going to be replaced anywhere close by rather than having them replaced somewhere not even in the locale?
Through Mayor Lennox, if someone could, Morton Street, just to see, Martin, sorry, I thought you said Morton. Yes, on Martin. So on the Sunvale site, there were some tree removals. There was an environmental impact study and an arborist report that looked at what trees could be removed. So there are some that will be removed. As part of that process, they'll have to be doing some compensation. So some of that compensation will happen on the stormwater management block and open space block that is on the south part of the subdivision. There will also be opportunity for further compensation elsewhere, and that has still to be determined.
But the trees that are being removed on Martin won't be replaced on Martin anywhere?
Yeah, through the mayor. I guess I'm not familiar offhand exactly which trees on Martin Street are being proposed. I can pull up a map and.
On the diagram, it did have them pointed out.
Street trees.
Through you, Chair. So the trees that you have inquiry about is from a severance application at 645 Martin Street, and that was to construct, I believe it was 5 residential homes in that area. And to be able to construct those homes, the trees were slotted to be removed. As part of the building permits, the township requires tree plantings to be replanted in front of the homes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Councilor McCabe?
Yeah, just have one, thank you, through you, Mayor. Just from, again, just the presentations earlier today, it seemed like some of the developers were maybe surprised or maybe somewhat uninformed. I just wondered how that happened or what went on there, and if they seemed like they're taken off guard.
Right, through you, Mayor, that next. So the information that we presented is our response to earlier correspondence. And we felt that it was important to bring it all to one meeting so that council could review our approach. Because again, the methodology of how these things are calculated is somewhat undefined. And so again, staff were taking sort of all the information that we had. We wanted to make it very transparent in terms of what the estimates were being based on, what the scope of work was being based on, so that everyone was on the same page. So I can appreciate that it was new information, but again, it couldn't be made public until it was ready to go. And this was the very first meeting we could get it to, understanding that we've been receiving requests to receive this information. So we felt it being made public at this time would be helpful for the discussions to get some direction from council and then continue the discussion with all parties involved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I have a couple question sort of comments. I'm not sure what they are, to be honest, but so I think if I may be reading between the lines, but from their deputations earlier, I think there's some discrepancy perhaps between the scope of work that was anticipated by them in that they understood through their draft plan of subdivision there were conditions that alluded to sidewalk inclusion and street urbanization, but there seems to be some discrepancy perhaps around what that looks like, what the scope of work is and whose responsibility that is. So I'm open to deferring this at their request. I mean, it's holding up their projects. But I'm just concerned with how do we get to a resolution? And I'm wrestling with the idea of what is the scope of work here? What is essential? You know, I've seen so many instances where we've had developments come into our community in the past without sidewalks or curbs, and then we're constantly playing catch up on that. I think it's appropriate to do this at the time of development, and I want us to get to an equitable solution too, but I don't want to defer this and have us still be in a logjam. So perhaps the developers could collaborate with the township staff and try to come up with a more equitable way to divide it, or to pull out scopes of work that then we as council could weigh in on. I'm not sure how else to move forward with this. I'm very, willing to defer and have discussions, but I just don't know how we're going to get from where we are today to where we want, where everybody's going to be happy. And I'm not sure we're ever going to get to where everybody's going to be happy. So, I'm open to the deferral, and I guess I could wait and see, but I do hope that everybody comes to the table with a constructive approach that will help us get to a solution that's suitable, not only for the developers, but also for the people of Wellington.
So would that motion have to be put forward to
It would,
defer?
yes.
All right, then I would make that motion.
Anyone wish to second that? Councilor Rankin?
Sorry, did you hear me, Lisa? Okay,
Any discussion on deferral?
I think you nailed it properly when you said you were open to it.
Is that something staff can work with? Brooke?
Through you, Mayor Lennox, absolutely. Yeah, if we can find a way to have these conversations with all parties involved, I'm certainly open to more.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor to defer. We have it seconded. All those in favor of deferral? That's deferred. Move on to our, is that clear, folks? Okay.
Still on.
Thanks.
Thanks, Travis. Have a good night.
We'll move on to, it's 2B, I believe it is, the Mount Forest Drive urbanization issue. We have a recommendation here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report INF 2025-11 Mount Forest Drive urbanization, and the council approves the cost-sharing approach for the development requirement of Mount Forest Drive urbanization between Main Street to Dandanon to be split between Township of Wellington North and Choice Properties as follows. Township of Wellington North, 593,000, Choice Properties, 307,000. And further, the council directs staff to include the Mount Forest Drive urbanization requirement for Choice Properties as a part of their development agreement, and funds to be received prior to the start of servicing to the development in order to implement the conditions of approval of the development. And further, the council approve a budget of 75,000 for the Mount Forest Drive reconstruction engineering design as a part of the 2026 capital budget. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councilor McCabe, Councilor Rankin, thank you. Questions, comments? Councilor McCabe?
Sorry, go ahead, Penny. No, you first.
Through you, Mayor Lennox, I just had a question. The Canadian Tire has an amount of 155,000, Cooley 151,000, but that's included at the total for the township. I'm not sure if I missed something somewhere that the township's paying for their portion.
Tammy?
Through you, Mayor Lennox. So the township was reviewing this based on the site plan control application, and there was a condition that was brought up by the township. So we reviewed Mount Forest Drive urbanization based on the frontage of each property. So to clearly identify the work along the frontage, BM Ross divided up that way. However, Canadian Tire and Cooley Group do not have a site plan control application in front of us. So that would be the township requirement.
Councilor McCabe?
Just a quick one. This is just being done for the expansion of the new, I guess, shopping center or something. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and when would that be starting?
Through you, Mayor Lennox, that would be determined by the developer for submitting the review packages. And then once we get into a site plan agreement, as part of the agreement, infrastructure services put forward this urbanization of Mount Forest Drive to be included in it.
Thank you.
Councilor Burke?
Yes, so I'm just wondering if this, I mean, I'm okay to set aside the funds for the budget for 2026. But I'm just wondering if Choice Properties should not be a part of the conversation that we'll be having with the rest of the developers.
I think it would be a similar conversation perhaps, but I don't think the two locations cross over all that well. But I think council could provide direction on things like around our expectations of sidewalks and urbanization of that section of street. If that's helpful at all?
Yeah, I just think that based on the conversation that just happened, that these folks should be brought to the table as well to have those conversations to see how the urbanization supports their development.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Hearn?
I don't have anything at this point in time.
Okay, well, I guess the next question in my mind is we deferred the last one. What do we want to do with this one? Councilor Burke?
I'll make a motion to defer this one as well so that Choice Properties can be a part of the conversation with the other developers from the previous report.
You have a motion on the floor, so we'll have to amend that motion with this motion. You have
Yeah.
we called for a mover and seconder, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a mover and seconder, but we would need a mover and seconder for deferral, right?
Right.
And
We have to do one first and then the other?
well, if we defer it, then we're not acting on the first one.
But if you vote on the first one, you
Well,
voted on
yeah,
it and then you can't
gotcha.
defer it.
Right.
Okay.
But we can still provide direction to staff with the deferral, which I think is what Councillor Burke was trying to do.
Yes, so I would defer the portion that talks about the fees associated. But I am okay with and further that council approve a budget of 75,000 for the Mount Forest Drive reconstruction engineering design for 2026 capital budget. I'm okay with that. I think it's the first part of the report where it talks about the fees associated for choice properties.
I think it'd be simpler and cleaner. I understand what you're saying, Councillor Burke, to defer the whole thing,
I can do that too.
and it'll come back to us.
Yep, I'm fine with that as well.
I just think procedurally it's going to get messy if we don't. Any other? So we have, do we have a mover and seconder for the deferral? Just a mover.
Just a
Oh,
mover.
I can second it.
Okay. Councillor McCabe seconds. Any discussion on deferral? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Move on to 2C, the spring traffic count report, or spring traffic counts. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report INF 2025-12, being a report on spring traffic counts for information. Could I get I made a mistake. Before I do that, we already deferred the other one, and I know that's not the way I should do this, but I think it would be, personally, I think it's sidewalks on Mount Forest Drive are valid because I think it will eventually connect to the likes of the high school and the development property in between. So I do think staff are pursuing an appropriate avenue with that, and I think I would like council to weigh in from a direction to staff perspective.
Like on the need for sidewalks?
On the need, yes, because that's what the proponent is arguing, is that there's no need for sidewalks because it's a dead end. Councillor Rankin.
I don't know. I see a lot of the teenagers in no frills all the time, so they're walking on the road to get there.
Right. And that's part of my issue as well, is that there's a lot of business comes from those high school students to that plaza. And I think sidewalks longer term are appropriate.
Oh, I would agree. If that's what you're asking, yeah, I think if we're doing it, we might as well do it all at once and do it right.
Well, I think that's the argument the developer is making, is that there's no need for sidewalks because that's a dead end. And if we're going to ask for sidewalks, then I think we need council support to do that.
Yep.
I see Councillor Hearn nodding. Councillor Burke, any comments?
Yeah, I think that there is a need for sidewalks there. I think there's a need for sidewalks in a lot of other places too. I guess my thought was if we don't invite those folks to the table and have a discussion about their apportionment, then I guess we're not being reasonable or fair to have that discussion with them, because maybe the dollar figure is correct, maybe it's not.
Okay. Is that helpful or not?
Through you, Mayor Lennox, I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of affirming what our expectations are as a township in terms of things like sidewalks, and that often is a point of debate. I think the stronger message that council sends, it gives staff the direction we need to have those conversations and to bring back the best recommendations that we can in terms of sharing those costs. So again, this discussion from I think staff's perspective is very helpful because again, we are advocating on behalf of what we believe the direction policy to be as stated by the township. So again, if we can get those kinds of clear statements in terms of expectations, that's very helpful.
Okay.
Just for clarity for the minutes, that item was deferred, but the minutes will show that council confirms the need for sidewalks between, where did I see that? I just saw that.
Between Main Street and the dead end.
Between Main Street
Main Street to dead end is the way it's written
to the
here.
dead end. Is that what we want to show in the minutes?
That's what's in my recommendation.
So we deferred the recommendation, but
We
that's,
provided that direction to staff.
okay, thank you.
Sorry about the screw up on the
No.
procedural, and thanks council for your indulgence. We'll move on as I tried to before. Spring traffic counts. The recommendation is the council of the corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report INF 2025-12 being report on the spring traffic counts for information. Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Burke. Questions, comments? Councillor McCabe?
Excuse me, through you, Mayor. I wanted to bring like I always find this interesting, the numbers and then how many cars actually are on the streets all over our township. So yeah, I wanted to bring up Leonard Street. I know Tammy and I had spoken about this, and I think Tammy and Andy Morrison had a chat with a resident on Leonard Street. And I think there's another report coming forward with regards to something similar to this, I think. But yeah, I'm hoping that we can maybe slow down the traffic or the racing on Eliza Street. But I think there's something coming in the fall, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lennox. Staff did receive a traffic calming request for Leonard Street, so we're investigating that with the recommendations to come forward in the next couple of council meetings. And as previously mentioned, we're also doing an urban impact traffic study, and that will be coming in the fall of 2025.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on this one? Councillor Burke?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Lennox, to Tammy. So will we look at a broader range of streets to include the ones that are being identified by residents that, you know, need some type of calming measures?
Through you, Mayor Lennox. So as part of the study, we'll be doing traffic counts throughout various streets within the township. We do have the high complaint streets that we're investigating, but we also monitor streets for future development to have pre and post data for that. And we'll be doing a comprehensive review of the majority of the roads.
Just as a follow-up to that, if I could, Tammy, are we able to collect speed information to see what the degree of the problem is as well?
Through you, Mayor Lennox. Yes. So with the data collections, we get the data count. So it's based on the vehicle size. So it can go from bicycles all the way up to transport trucks. And then we also get speeds as well. It's usually typically hourly speeds that we get for it.
I shouldn't say often, periodically, and I've dealt with lots of traffic speed complaints both here and at the county level. Sometimes the perception doesn't match the reality. And so I think it's important that we recognize what the actual circumstances are, not only the perception of what the circumstances are. Councillor Rankin?
Through you, Mayor Lennox, is it very costly to put the speed bumps on the road?
Through you, Mayor Lennox. So unfortunately, I don't have those costs. We can look into it. It'll be included in the report for the study. It'll have various options for traffic calming methods, and we'll have costs associated with it as well.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot. It just came to me.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Move on to 3A. This is the Tri-Fire Service Strategic Plan. And I have a recommendation here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report Fire 2025-004 Tri-Fire Service Strategic Plan. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Rankin and Councillor McCabe. And I see Khalees is here ready to present
Oh.
the information to us.
Ready as I'll ever be, I guess.
Please,
Right, just have it right there.
and I see you brought some team members with you.
Yeah, they didn't want to get up and talk apparently, so. All right, so through you, Mayor Lennox, I am here to talk about our master fire plan. This is the finale, the third time I get to present this presentation. So we can go to the next slide. Sorry, I have my notes on my phone, so I'm not playing games here.
Difficulty.
So over the past 6 months, we've been gathering data surrounding our master fire plan and coming up with recommendations in each of the different divisions. There's an arrow right there. So in terms of our strategic plan, we're hoping that it propels our organization into the future. It embraces change and fosters a culture of continuous improvement. Next slide. I'm not going to read our vision in terms of emergency services, but the key thing that I'd like you to get out of our vision statement is that we want to be a leader in fire and emergency service, and we want to be striving for excellence through continuous improvement and collaboration. Next slide, please. When we wrote our strategic plan, we talked about incorporating strategic pillars that we want to make sure we incorporate into our vision and into the different divisions that we analyzed in terms of our data. And those 3 pillars are people. So we would like to prioritize those we lead and serve. So both our firefighters and residents of our communities. Performance, delivering outstanding results with precision. So we want to make sure that we have data to back up our decision making. And then partnerships, emphasizing collaboration and shared goals, both community partnerships with residents and organizations, and also partnerships with our allied agencies. Next slide. So again, when we were collecting data through the last 6 months about our fire services, we got together and we categorized all of the data into different divisions, if you will, in terms of our service delivery areas. And what we came up with was administration. So those are basically resource allocation, budgeting, all of that sort of admin work, communications and technology, quality assurance and data management, mechanical maintenance, professional development and training, public education, operations, fleet, emergency management, human resources, fire investigation, and fire prevention. So those were the 3 areas that we each took and decided to analyze those areas for their strengths, their weaknesses, their gaps, and things that we could do to propel those areas into the future. If we go to the next slide, we come up with themes for current challenges in the next 3 to 5 year period. And those will be volunteer recruitment and retention, just not specific to our 3 services, but specific to the province, just due to economic factors and different lifestyle changes. It's becoming harder and harder to retain volunteers for fire services. So we want to invest in or implement initiatives to keep our firefighters engaged and employed for a long time. One of our next challenges, next slide, sorry, will be infrastructure needs, renovating outdated stations and planning new facilities in Mapleton and Wellington North. The next challenge, next slide, will be technological advancements. The fire service in the last 10 years has shot into the future in terms of our technological advancements. We've gone from paper to fax to tablets to digital, and I don't know, the firefighters will tell you 6 months time, but it's probably more of a 5 year period. And then we're looking to increase our technological advancements with the incoming new network, Next Gen 911, and the way that we'd like to collect data when it comes to incidents. So implementing centralized data systems and keeping up with technology trends in emergency services will definitely be a challenge. And then fleet costs. So finding alternative solutions to maintain service with a similar or smaller fleet due to increasing costs. Our fleet costs have increased, I would say 20% over the last few years, at least, to purchase fire trucks. So then in terms of this presentation, the document itself, I think, contains over 70 recommendations. I basically took out my favorites and
put them in this PowerPoint presentation. So not all of them are in here, just the ones that I guess I find interesting. So if we go into mechanical and fleet, the highlights of the mechanical, next slide, sorry, and fleet division will be to forecast our future needs by planning 25 years ahead. So we'd like to develop a 25-year truck plan. We're currently in the midst of starting that project where we've reviewed all of our fleet across all 7 stations, decided what we might not need and what we do need, and then how we're going to fulfill those gaps. We'd like to work on, which a lot of these projects are already in play. We just need to streamline or confirm and complete them. But we're looking at streamlining equipment and apparatus so that essentially our responses are borderless. So if you're a firefighter in Wellington North or Mapleton, the equipment is in the same area, which optimizes our response because we can find everything in a timely manner. Same with standardizing equipment and apparatus. If you're operating a pump in Hairston, it should be the same as Arthur so that we have those backups in place from our firefighters. Next slide, in terms of fire prevention. So fire prevention is an area that's definitely going to grow over the next few years. Urbanization and population density have amplified the impact when fires do happen in our communities. And technological advancements are definitely creating some new fire hazards, such as lithium-ion batteries. So the highlights out of fire prevention is we would like to finalize our proactive inspections based on our community risk assessment, which was brought to council last year, targeting high-risk occupancies. And then we'd like to just bring that one level higher by creating a user interaction cycle that informs users on the benefits of proactive inspections in sort of a customer service cycle. And then we want to standardize investigation procedures and ensure that the data that we're getting from our investigations is being used in our public education programming. If we go to human resources, so again, in terms of retention, generally it costs less than recruitment. Our long-term firefighters are usually more knowledgeable and create a safer working environment. So we want to keep them for as long as we can. So if we go to the next slide, the highlights out of our human resource section, I don't foresee that we have to add firefighters in terms of our complement in our operations section to either Arthur or Mount Forest. The number of firefighters that we're allotted will meet our needs for many years to come. So I don't see that we need to increase our current staffing levels. We're not, maybe there might be a few missing in terms of our current staffing levels, but what we're allotted seems to be working out fine. We'd like to formalize some firefighter development and value-added benefits or services. So instead of increasing wages, maybe there are other things that we can do that provide value to firefighters within the community that makes them want to continue working for our organization. And then we'd also want to formalize and develop our wellness and engagement plans. Cancer prevention is going to be and is a huge issue within the fire services, again, not specific to our services, but across the province. So we'd really like to formalize and implement a cancer prevention program that covers both what happens when firefighters get cancer, but then preventing them. So those upstream services that, prevent them from getting cancer, and then maintenance services, things like having them see a doctor more regularly to make sure that cancer hasn't started. We'd like to provide some planning for our retirees because, a lot of our volunteers have committed 30 years to our communities. So we feel it's important to provide them with support post service. Some of our retirees may be needing some mental health support or cancer prevention services. We just want to continue that relationship with them. And then organizational culture is something that we would like to focus on also within our 3 services to just better blend everybody across the board and make us one big happy family. Not that we're not. If we move on to infrastructure, investing in robust infrastructure is essential for fire departments to operate efficiently. So the highlights out of that will be that we would like to have a plan, next slide, to do something with our stations in Drayton and Mount Forest. So by the end of this strategic plan, we're not expecting to have a fire hall built, but we would like to have a direction, whether that be renovating the current building, finding land and building a new one, or maintaining what we have essentially. So we just like a direction and have that firmed up by the end of these next 3 to 5 years. And then we have some minor maintenance renovations in Moorfield to do. In terms of operations, So recent data has indicated that there's a rising trend in fires in Ontario. Again, I think that's because of urbanization, higher density populations. Instead of taking out one house, we're taking out three now. So in terms of operations, if we go to the next slide, our biggest recommendation from our operations section is to implement new response zones to align with seamless borders across the municipalities. So basically all that means is the closest stations will attend the incident no matter where they're from. So if you have a border call and Arthur and Drayton are closest, they will attend. It won't matter which department they're from. Basically, we're all working together to be the most effective responders. In terms of public education, we'd like to build strong community networks and involve local leaders in our campaigns. Hopefully this will enhance our trust and participation from our residents. If we go to the next slide, the highlights from public education are to develop public education programs related to key findings from current data and the newly completed community risk assessment. So we in Wellington North and Minto have enough data that we can start to design programs surrounding the incident cause. Mapleton, obviously, with it being a newer partnership, we're still working on that data, but I'm finding that a lot of the data from Wellington North is mirroring Minto, is kind of mirroring Mapleton. So we'll be able to create a bigger bang for our buck if we use the same programming across the three municipalities. We want to increase our community engagement and as well investigate hiring public education specialist volunteers. So basically public education specialists would still be volunteers. They'd be paid the same rate as volunteers, but they would be specific to the public education division. Training obviously is a huge part of our business. Continuous training helps firefighters develop and maintain the skills necessary to perform. And the highlights coming out of our training division, where right now a lot of our recruits and firefighters go out of town to complete their courses. So as we all know, maybe we don't know, the deadline next year for certification in the province for everybody to be NFPA certified is approaching, and that will mean that we'll have to continue certifying firefighters. So we'd like to develop a complement of in-house training instructors that can produce those courses in our stations. We'd like to increase cohesion between stations through joint training. So a lot of this work has happened where we've had double and triple and quadruple station practices where there's been stations from Mount Forest, Drayton, and Hairston all working together at scenes, but we want to double that and start really working together as seamlessly as possible. And then we'd also like to complete a training center feasibility study. So recently we had live fire training in Drayton. We had the live fire trailer, and it was invaluable having that training for our firefighters. And basically we're looking at, or would like to research into what it would cost to have something like that in our area full time. So in terms of the last section, growth and future needs, obviously we want to keep resourcefulness and sustainability at the top of our minds. And basically, we just want to ensure that the fire department is involved in any growth projects in any of the municipalities to ensure that our future needs are met and that we're staying on top of growth within our municipalities. And I think that is it. So that's all I had.
Questions? Thanks, Khalees. Question from council?
Sure. Through you, Mayor. Thanks for this. This is fantastic. I had a question that I was going to ask was, are the teams in all three municipalities pretty well aligned? And it seems like you've already answered that question for me. So I think it's great. I'm glad Mapleton is back on board, and yeah, it's just fantastic.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Those in favor? Carried. You. Which one was the hardest?
I don't know. They were all actually like, nobody really had questions. So
Guess that just means you explained it thoroughly.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 5B. This is the lease agreement with the Arthur Food Bank. Year Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received report CBO 2025-10, the report on the lease agreement with the Arthur Food Bank, 146 George Street, and that the Council of the Township of Wellington North authorized the mayor and clerk to enter into a lease agreement with the Arthur Food Bank. Get a mover and a seconder. Councilor Ray. Questions, comments? Councilor McCabe?
Thank you, and I know this is the Arthur Food Bank, but maybe a question. I have a question for the food bank or the pantry in Forest. And I've been told a couple of different times that they pay a rent. It's about $1,100 a month where they are right now. And I'd love to have some sort of an agreement with Mount Forest like we have with our food bank where it's rent free. And I would love to suggest maybe moving the pantry into the old arena. And probably a good space for that there. And hopefully then they can spend that money. But instead of spending $1,100 a month on rent, then it can be better spent on food and provisions for those on-board residents that need it. So I don't know how we can do that or.
Through you, Mayor Lennox. So staff will be bringing forward a report on the Mount Forest Community Center later this year. And that's certainly some input we can consider as part of that report. If, that's something that we can do a little bit more work on in terms of what that could potentially look like, we can bring that particular piece forward in that report as well. And then council can look at it at that time.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I would, if we're going, considering that as an option, I know that, not sure what the right word is, but the ability for people who are accessing the food bank to be able to do it somewhat anonymously is pretty important. So if we were to include it in a public facility like that, we would have to give consideration to how that could be accomplished and still give the people that discretion that they need. So I would say if we're going to entertain that idea, we probably should engage with the community pantry people in order to look for a potential solution to that challenge. Councilor Rankin.
Thank you. To you, Mayor Lennox. I had pulled this as well for exactly the same reason and hoping to be able to have it possibly in the old arena. And I'm just thinking both organizations, Arthur and Mount Forest, they have similar goals. So I was hoping they would have similar status in the community with having them treated the same. So, and to your question about accessibility, I was just wondering, if there is a possibility of having it in the old arena, would you be able to have an entrance that is specific for that isn't visible? Say, it could be around the corner from where the main people access the arena.
Through you, Mayor Lennox. So staff will consult with the Mount Forest Community Pantry or Food Bank, and we can get a little bit better understanding of what their specifications are for a facility, what their needs are. So I think that's something that we can look at and continue in the conversation. And then if there's needs that need to be included, if it's not the Mount Forest Community Center, perhaps there's a different facility we can look at accommodating them in as well.
Councilor Hearn?
I just wanted to agree that with regards to the anonymity, tomorrow's my day at the food bank, and I never ever discuss who's been into the food bank and what their needs are. So I think that is greatly appreciated.
And I just have one question, and it's not directly, it's indirectly related to this. I mean, during the construction period, the food bank in Arthur is taking a different approach in that they're giving out grocery cards. I know I had a phone call just today from a user of the food bank who was concerned that they weren't able to pick up their card. So I hope the food bank is communicating that clearly to all of their users, and hopefully we can pass that concern on to make sure that they have.
They have, and I think that the challenge, Mayor Lennox, is probably contacting that vulnerable population effectively. I can't speak for the food bank clearly, but yeah.
Right. I just want to make sure that they're aware that this had come to me. Not, I didn't promise to do anything about it for the individual. I said you need to contact the food bank person that you deal with. And I left it at that, but just in this transition period, it's going to be probably a little more difficult. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. That wasn't a comment on me calling the question, was it? Okay. You don't have the mouth to mouth piece for that? See you later. We need those concentric circles painted on the blind. Okay. No, thanks for going to the rescue. You didn't have to administer mouth to mouth, did you? Or mouth to beak in this case. Okay, we'll move on to the 6A. This is the report with regard to Highland Farm Service, Inc. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report DEV 2025-11 regarding the final approval of the Highland Farm Service Inc. site plan control agreement for the new Maple Lane Farm Service Inc. location. Moved by Councilor Burke, seconded by Councilor Hearn. Questions or comments? Councilor Burke?
So I'm just really happy to see this application to continue to move forward. We sometimes get these developments and they sit, but there doesn't seem to be any moss growing on this rolling stone. So happy to see that. And I think it'll be a great addition to our community.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Hearn?
And I agree with you completely, Councillor Rook. My only question, and I think I know the answer to it, the name Highland Farm Service, that's just a holding company, correct? So that they can complete their transition?
Through you, Mayor Lennox, that's what staff believe to be the case.
All those in favor? That's carried. We'll move on to the Community Improvement Plan 1. We have a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report C&ED Inc. Community Improvement Plan application. Is that Inc? Should that Inc be there? No. Second guessing myself. And that council approved the building conversion and improvement grant in the amount of $5,000 to Panini and Pour Inc. for business upgrades. Moved by Councilor Rankin, seconded by Councilor Burke. Questions, comments? Councilor Rankin?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lennox. I was just wondering what the definition is of aesthetic. It says that the conversion and improvement grant aims at enhancing the overall aesthetic and functionality of the building. So is, in that word aesthetic, is there any possibility of trying to keep the buildings looking original or heritage in the town?
Andy, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Rankin, through you, Mayor Lennox. So yes, aesthetic as it relates to the architecture would include the overall design, style and sensory experience that building evokes. As it relates to the facade guidelines, staff are currently in the process of updating the CIP facade design guidelines and application to make the process more clear for applicants.
Based on conversations at the Wellington North Cultural Roundtable regarding historic buildings, staff reached out to the Mount Forest Museum and Archives for feedback on historic aesthetic. And through this outreach, the guidelines now emphasize how applicants could highlight historical features or elements that have survived on the facade. So this application is for the interior renovations, but as it relates to our facade and signage guidelines, that will be updated to include that historic feature.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to the resolution supporting the Elect Respect Pledge. And with that is a lengthy recommendation that I'm sure no member of council wants to hear me read. So I will ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Burke. And I'll open the floor for discussion. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. Presentation. This is the elect respect come out of a long meeting that I was at a couple weeks ago for Healthy Democracy Summit that was held in Belmont, just the other side of this side of Ottawa. And one of Mayor Mead Ward's reps were there and spoke to the crowd about elect respect.
Is your mic on, Steve?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And spoke to it and kind of educated everyone in the room on this. And I immediately went to the website and then I sent it to Brooke and Karen and wanted this on on our agenda for tonight. And hopefully we can support this. It's something definitely worth supporting and wanted to shed some light on it. And we're hoping to get this recommendation to all members of AMO as well. And obviously member municipalities of Roma. So,
okay. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I think this is what we all hope the reality will be. And I think all of us have experienced occasions when it's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we absolutely should support this and try to make sure that we're doing our best to live it.
Agreed.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And any notice of motion this evening? Being none, we'll move on to community group meeting program report. Does anybody have anything they'd like to report on tonight? Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, so June 10th, 11th, and 12th, and I think maybe even the 13th. I was down in Eastern Ontario at the chair of Roma, her municipality of Mississippi Mills, and we always go at least once a year into a different zone and then see what's up. And then it coincided with the Healthy Democracy Summit as well, so that was really good. And then tomorrow, with Roma in the back of my head, I'm going to see Minister Thompson over in Clinton, and I can't think of the name of the program that's going on over there. I completely lost it. So yeah, so I'll be over in Clinton tomorrow and bring up rural affairs to our rural affair minister. So looking forward to that as well.
Councillor Burke?
Yeah, so I just have a couple of things to update council on. The Mount Forest Aquatics update. Since our last council meeting, the Aquatics Fundraising Committee has raised about $260,000. And just wanted to acknowledge here at the council meeting the support from the Township of Southgate, and we've also received a couple of other smaller donations, but all donations are good. And the committee is also working on a newsletter and still actively working on donations. To date, to get to our 80%, we are looking for a little over 900,000. And also wanted to update council on the Mount Forest Fireworks Festival. They're still looking for quite a few volunteers for that weekend. So if you have any time aside, I think the last post I saw was they're looking for about 65 more volunteers for the weekend. They've got a lot of reoccurring events, car show, motorcycle show and shine, kids zone, but they've also decided to embrace the number of pizza shops that we have in Mount Forest. So they have what they are calling a Battle of the Bites. It's a pizza showdown. And there are 2 levels. One is, and they're contacting the pizzerias in Mount Forest. One is how quickly one individual can eat a 14-inch large pizza. And the other one is how many slices you can eat in 10 minutes. So that happens. That happens on the Friday night, just before the fireworks go off on the Friday night. So it looks interesting, and it sounds like some fun, but yeah, just a little bit of fun based on we're always being highlighted for the number of pizzerias that we have. So
Is that being sponsored by Tums?
I'm not sure.
Any other updates from other members of council? I just wanted to highlight myself the big fundraising gala for the hospital foundation. I haven't heard the final numbers. Has anybody heard final numbers yet in terms of dollars raised?
So I can comment on that a little bit. Final numbers they don't have in as of yet, as they're still trying to calculate their expenses. But I can tell you that the last item that they auctioned off, where it was a auction ask or a Chinese auction, I like to call it, where they started at a number and everybody donated what they felt that they could. They raised over $52,000 just for that item for the lifts.
Wow. Fantastic. Yeah, it seemed like it was very successful through the auction process, so I was eager to hear what the results are.
Stay tuned, I'll find out.
But it seemed quite successful in terms of the participation and the commitment. And I didn't get put in jail. With that, we'll move on to bylaws.
Oh,
Sure.
Mayor Lennox, can I just add that I also attended commencement and presented 3 awards on behalf of the township. It was a nice evening, and it was nice to recognize the future leaders of our community.
And thanks for doing that on my behalf, Councillor Burke. We'll move on to bylaws. Do we just have the one? No. So we have a recommendation that bylaw number 37, 38, 39, and 40. Wait. Is it? Yep. 40-2025 be read and passed. Move for in a seconder, please. Councillor Rankin and Councillor Hearn, thank you. Any discussion on those? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're on to cultural moment. I can't wait to hear what they say about the Swamp Sisters.
Oh, boy.
Ready?
Knowing some of the Swamp Sisters.
The Wellington North Cultural Roundtable presents a cultural moment, the Swamp Sisters. Out of the mist on a moonlit night emerge 2 shadows making their way from the marsh into Damascus. These foreboding visions in search of men, moonshine, and mayhem are fondly known as the Swamp Sisters. They first attended the West Luther Centennial celebrations in 1981, where hands down they won the log sawing contest. However, the most remembered moment for the sisters is when Dean Hopkins, an NHL player with the Los Angeles Kings, attended the Township Centennial. It is said Dean never took a check as hard as he did when one of the Swamp Sisters hit him with their purse. During the next decade, most locals could hardly wait until the Arthur Enterprise News was in their mailbox to anxiously read the next installment of the column, The Damascus Road. It was there where the report of the sisters brightened our day. The sisters do have a soft side. They were reported to have visited the newest senior citizen of Damascus for their birthday one year with a gift from the swamp, turtles. There was also a sighting in Drain 36. One of the Swamp Sisters surprised two local residents who were out for an Easter Sunday walk. They were strolling along the edge of the drainage ditch when a canoe came out of the mist. It was gone as quickly and quietly as it had approached. Trouble, however, was never far behind. Even during harvest season, when most were too tired for nonsense, the sisters found time for new antics. One was rumored to be raising large, toad-eating snakes and letting them roam freely through neighbors' gardens. The Luther Marsh, a sprawling 12,000-acre wetland and a vital stopover for hundreds of thousands of migrating birds, was their domain. Strange things happened there. Canada geese were seen stomping across rooftops, honking wildly. A swamp friend blamed it on the quack grass that the sisters had been feeding them. For just over a decade, the Swamp Sisters reigned in West Luther, where they were rumored to have control over Reeve Jack Lennox. Now, whispers stir once more. Could they rise again, this time to challenge Mayor Andy Lennox? Only the mist knows for sure.
Oh my.
Anybody want to see that again?
Oh, I didn't expect that piece at the end. Oh. That I was there at the first sighting. Oh. I don't know how you carry on from that. Okay, we'll move on to the confirming bylaw. And the recommendation is that bylaw number 42-2025 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North at its regular meeting held on June 23rd, 2025 be read and passed. Moved by Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor McCabe. All those in favor? That's carried. Before we move to, I don't have the notices. So just to draw your attention to the notices, of course, the farmers market is every Saturday till September 27th from 8:30 to noon at Parkside Drive in Mount Forest. The next Chamber of Commerce meeting in Mount Forest is June 24th. That's tomorrow. Mount Forest BIA next meets July 8th at 8 a.m. The Arthur Chamber of Commerce meets the 8th at 5:30 p.m. Next cultural roundtable is at the Mount Forest and District Sports Complex on July 10th. And our next regular council meeting is July the 14th at 2 p.m. With that, we will move to adjournment. I have a recommendation that the regular council meeting of June 23rd, 2025 be adjourned at 8:24 p.m. Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Hearn. All those in favor? It's carried. Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned. Really? Wow. Did you have one ready?